The first question I have to ask you is, how did you first come about working with Patrick Mouratoglou and working for Ultimate Tennis Showdown?
Well, it was interesting. My agent is his agent, so that helped. So
That
he was
really does
yeah,
help.
yeah. Um, so he was well across it, but it was incredibly late. I was actually booked initially to work on the British Championships in the UK, and yeah, and we kind of thought this just wasn't going to happen, or at least I wasn't going to be able to come out here from London.
Hmm.
And it was literally as I had an 11 a.m. flight,
Hmm.
and at 9 a.m., I was still being told just to hold on. And so we still didn't know whether I could go or not.
Oh, wow.
And then right at the last second, they got clearance, and we just had to sort of sprint to the airport and get here and get across. So it was all very, very last minute. Didn't look like it was going to happen. And it was one of those snap decisions where it's like, okay, will this be good? Will this not be good? But yeah, that was how it came about. I also got recommended via someone else as well that I do ATP Tennis Radio, and I know the guy in charge of that had recommended to the Tennis Majors website here myself
Nice.
for commentary as well. So as in, I think each area they'd heard from me. But yeah, it was
They know of
very
you.
last minute. They knew of me, but it was yeah, it literally happened in about 3-4 days. It wasn't something that was planned in the diary. My agent knew about it for about 2-3 weeks, and he was saying, "Oh, this might happen." But to be honest, during lockdown, I was kind of thinking, "No, that won't happen." And kind of didn't really think about it, and so it was only very late that I did
Wow.
think about that.
And you've always worked in tennis? Was that your primary commentary
Yeah,
sport?
yeah. So I mean, my background's all tennis. I played a lot of junior tennis. I coached as well until I was about 26. And yeah, and then now I commentate pretty much for everyone in the UK. So
Hmm.
BBC, ATP World Feed, WTA World Feed, Amazon Prime, Eurosport, pretty much. I know that sounds a little bit BT Sport. Pretty much anyone who's covered tennis, I've commentated for. So it's quite funny being out here. Patrick asked me that first time I got out here. He was like, "Who do you
Okay.
work for?" And it's like, okay, it's almost
Here's
who I don't work for.
here's my list.
Yeah, yeah. But that's all I do all year round. All I do is commentate. Yeah.
So, is there anything different that Mouratoglou's Ultimate Tennis Showdown has done that you haven't done in the past? Has there been any differences?
Yeah, I mean, the fact that we're in vision and the fact that we get to talk to the players. I mean, if I'm being brutally honest with you, I mean, as with anything, I was intrigued by it. I'm as much as I'm a huge tennis fan,
Hmm.
as in I'm actually a huge sports fan of other sports, and so I sometimes find tennis goes on a bit too long. Obviously, I'm embedded in the sport, so
Of course.
girlfriend or when anyone is expecting me home at a certain point, I just have to say, look, it could be 2 a.m. in the morning, it could be 6 a.m. in the morning. You just don't know with tennis, as
Exactly.
we know. So this format is in the fact you know when you're going to finish, but it was more so the fact I thought chatting to the players would be amazing, to be honest, and it has turned out to be that way. I was wondering, I think it's turned out to be better than I thought it would. Being on camera during the commentaries, and Patrick himself as well sort of said that we want more excitement, push the boundaries, and then come back, do it that way round. So I kind of feel now it's going to be strange going back to commentating on the ATP and WTA because we've had so much fun here, and it has been relentless. As in, we don't really get much opportunity to take a breath, as you can probably hear. And it's just go, go, go. So even at the sit downs where usually you can take a breath, have a drink, and just calm, it's no. It's like actually you need to think even more at the sit down. So it's a really intense way of commentating,
Hmm.
but it's been so much fun, and I kind of feel it will be strange going back to normality in other tennis.
It seems very different compared to the other jobs that you have worked in terms of commentating on tennis. It seems like you've been saying nonstop, go, go, go. Has that been the challenge of talking about tennis or commentating on the sport? Because it seems like you never get a break for at least 40 minutes.
Yeah, and especially when we're doing sort of 5 matches back to back,
Yeah.
it's almost don't get a break for a good few hours. But woe is me, the tennis commentator. I know I've got the most amazing job in the world. So it's in, but I think my brand of commentary has always been trying to bring excitement, anyway, which I think is one of the reasons they hired me. So as in, I think I don't know. I get excited by watching live sport. I think there's nothing better in the world. It's the greatest reality TV show there is. So I think with that, you should be getting excited with what you're seeing.
Hmm.
And I naturally do. And so I think with this, there are more exciting moments crammed in,
Hmm.
and you've got the chatting to the players. So yeah, from a commentary point of view, it is a little bit more tiring. We sort of, whenever we finished, I'm like, I need a glass of wine, and I'm often awake for hours afterwards.
Yeah.
And it does feel more relentless, but I think it's better. I think it's, I don't know, like friends of mine who aren't that into tennis who have been listening, they've enjoyed it more. And I think that's who Patrick was sort of targeting. He was targeting younger people who maybe watch a tennis match and with all the sit downs and the breaks in between the points, get a little bored and don't have anything to look at or watch very often. And I know in the modern age, Gen Z and all of that, everyone needs to be kept entertained all the time. And so I think this format does that far better. I'm not saying that I'm a big fan of traditional tennis as well. I think maybe there's space for both. But from a commentary point of view, yeah, I've enjoyed it more, I think, because of the sort of excitement. I get on really well with Jenny as well, as in, so we sort of have a good laugh. So I think that helps as well. Not saying I don't get on well with all the other guys that I commentate with throughout the rest of the year, but it's, yeah, it's just, there's a bit more freedom. You can be a bit more freestyle here, which I enjoy.
You can definitely tell that when you interview some of the players during their downtime or in between their sets, because I think you asking Tsitsipas what his favorite Justin Timberlake song really threw me for a loop, because that's not usually something you would ask them during a changeover.
Well, I mean, Steph threw us initially because, basically what happened is that one of his coaches, Kerry, had basically said to him, "Oh yeah, doesn't Pete look like Justin Timberlake?" And so I've had that all my life, which it's not a bad thing now. I used to hate it, but now I quite like it. So he threw me just by going, "Hey Justin," and then throwing all this stuff of Justin Timberlake at me. And so then I just thought the natural segue to that was, Ed, do you like him? Would you like to sing? And I didn't expect him to sing, and then he just did. He just went off and sung, which was just amazing. And then from there on in, we just didn't know what to get from. We didn't. Each time we sit down with the players, we did not know what was going to happen with each and every player. I think Steph in particular has been so fascinating. I didn't know this side of his character. I know he's very unique, but just delving into that mindset and how he's thinking on the court and how he's able to just go and sing, and then every time he sung to us as well, he won the next quarter. So he wasn't, so that he didn't lose his concentration. He was relaxed, and that's been one of the best things about being here, is in usually I'm often either commentating from London or you're on tour. And when you're on tour as well, you work such long hours, you're kind of in your own media bubble, so you're often just with the other commentators. You'll come across players and coaches a little bit. Mostly you come across obviously ex-players that you know very well that you're commentating with, but you don't immerse yourself with the teams. And here we have, because it's so small. We've spent time with Apostolos, with Kerry, and with Steph. And it's been absolutely fascinating seeing their psyche and how they go about life.
So if we talk about more on the broader scheme of tennis, what would be one thing that you would like to see integrated onto the tour, and what's one thing that maybe that could have been done better from the Ultimate Tennis Showdown?
I think, I do think the sit downs. I thought before coming into this, I think this. I mean, obviously it's probably slight bias from me because I'm a commentator. But having said all of that, as in, my girlfriend is into reality TV, not a big tennis fan, and she was like, "Oh, I'm just loving UTS because it's so fascinating listening to the players, and it's almost a bit reality TV." And I think tennis is such an individual sport. It's so full of emotion. And I think if we want to sell it more, we need to get more emotion and see more into the player's psyche. I think that, for me, I'm into my psychology. And so I think that, for me, is such an interesting part of it. Even if they're throwing the headset down and saying, "No, I don't want to talk to you," I think the way the sport is going and how we need to sell it and market it, I think that's probably the way we get younger kids involved in it and younger kids watching it. And so I think that's been the best side of it for me, as in I don't think anyone thought Steph Tsitsipas would be singing at sit down. And they've all said interesting, fascinating things. Even during the final, to have Berrettini's honesty to be there going, "Hey, yeah, I thought about being 2 quarters to love up, and I'm a bit shaky on that. As in, I'm a bit worried. As in, I was 2 quarters to love up, and he could come back." And I thought that was fascinating. In terms of negatives, I always think you should be trying things. You only learn from questioning and only learn from trying new things out. So it's tough to be too critical of it, because I think, look, in the calendar, I don't know where it will fit, if I'm being brutally honest. Where's it going to fit? That's one thing that's difficult. I think certain cards maybe don't work. and I also don't know. I just don't know how much you want to get a sport on a bit of luck over sort of judgment. So I love the
Gotcha.
3-pointers. I think they change. You know, they, as we saw in the final, they flipped the match, and suddenly Berrettini was in a position to win it, having really lost more points. But how much do you want your sport to be based on sort of cards and luck and things like that? So that's something I'm still thinking they can play with. I like the fact it's got a definitive ending. I think it's going to be interesting how it works with crowds. That's the other thing as well. You know, how when you talk to a player at the sit down, does that get announced? Does that take away from it? So yeah, I think there are question marks certainly, but I think overall, I think it's been great, and I think it's a fantastic format, and so I think there's been way more positives than there has been negatives.
Yeah,
for me.
I totally agree. I think the cards were definitely a unique position to kind of throw it in, and the whole idea, and this, from what I've heard, is this UTS has been considered like a video game. No one's seen anything like it. No one's been entertained with it as much as this. But is there, when people say or call it a video game, what would be your response to that?
Well, it's interesting you say that, because I know Patrick was thinking about esports, because obviously esports are huge, and they're taking off. And actually, we're just about to interview Holger Rune, the very talented 17-year-old. And so that's one of the questions I'm going to have to ask to him. Great guy, lovely family as well. And so that's one of the questions I'm going to ask him. Is going to be like, how much are you into esports? How much are your friends into esports? And that's the danger with esports, is in, I love going to sporting events. So, this works on TV fantastically well, I think, because, you get us interacting with the players, you get the buzzer and things like that. So how it will work with an audience, I'm not so sure, but I still think you see amazing tennis. So I've watched a bit of it when I've not been commentating, and it's still, you're watching fantastic players hit unbelievable shots, and, the movement and the fact it's only 15 seconds between the points. But I do think looking like a computer game isn't a bad thing, because we're going to be competing as a sport against esports. That is, if we want to get young people into tennis, we know esports is booming, so we need to rival that. And why not make it a bit more like, you had, I'm not that into esports. I don't, but I know you have boxes where people talk about it all the time.
Of course.
And so I think, why not do that? And from a commentator's point of view, it's nice for us, because, well, you get to see our ugly mugs. So it's a bit, and that was actually the nice thing here as well, bizarrely. As a commentator, so often I'm working on tour in the events, and I wander around, and I was sort of almost saying, oh, hi, to everyone that walks past, thinking they know me, because I spend all of my time talking about them. Whereas here, they actually stop and go, oh, hey, Pete, because obviously they actually see who I am. And so, and that's a nice thing as well. It's like, okay, you then feel more integrated with everyone. And I think that was also what Patrick wanted. He wanted to make it about other characters, more characters, everyone more involved. And so I don't think it's a bad thing that it's similar to computer games, because I think that's what we've got to be looking to rival and beat almost.
I agree with the statement with how it should be like a video game, because like you said before, with Gen Z and my generation, tennis has been lacking, in my opinion, something to kind of grasp and keep the attention of the younger generation, and especially when it comes to athletes besides Roger, Rafa, Serena, Novak. It's hard to get to know the players in the younger that are younger and maybe in the top 50 rather than the top 10. So getting that demographic has been a huge thing, and I think Patrick is on the right path, maybe not there yet, but on the right path with something like this.
Yeah, and I think that's where you have to give him credit. He's an innovator. He thinks outside the box, and I think, as I said before, in life, in politics, in anything, you only gain from trying these things out. And I'm sure the tennis community will cherry pick. I know back in Britain, they're already doing the headset sit downs.
Yeah.
And so, that's already filtered in. So we've gained something from UTS. I think that's the way everyone needs to look at it. You can only gain from it. Okay, some might not like it. Some traditionalists might not like it. But I'm also someone, again, similar to Patrick, I'm not against traditional tennis. I've been part of traditional tennis all my life. I commentate for the ATP, for the WTA. The matches there are incredible, as in, the 3 sets, the twists and turns in the 3-set match, the psychology with it. 5-setters as well at the slams is also amazing. Like, I would never want to change Wimbledon.
Of course.
All of that. But at the same time, okay, right, can we get more younger people involved? I just want more people in the sport. The more people that get involved in tennis, for me, the better, because I've got my life out of it. I've got, from playing as a junior, from coaching, from commentating. I've got all my friends that are involved in tennis. I've got such a good life out of it. So if other people can get a good, healthy life out of it, the better, and everyone wins that way.
I totally agree. My last question before I let you go do your podcast: has there been any discussion about having a women's side of UTS?
Now, this might be a bit hot off the press. Okay. I think there will be. They think they're going to do UTS2 here in about a week and a half's time.
Very nice.
And I think for the second weekend of that, so in 3 weekends' time or 2.5 weekends' time, there will be, I think, 4 women's UTS. So there'll just be 4 players playing in it. I don't think I can announce. So I almost throwing my phone over the bridge. I don't think I can announce or say who the players are yet.
Totally fine.
And all of that. But that's what I think, and it will go alongside, or at least at the same time, as the men's UTS2. So it won't be as big, because I think the men's UTS2, I think they think there's going to be 8 players. Again, that's not confirmed. But
no worries.
That's what they're believing is going to happen. So yeah, there will be some women. I know Patrick's really keen to get a women's UTS and a proper one going. And so there will be one happening. And yeah, of course, definitely want that to happen. I think bring out the characters of the women as well will be so important and so great, because we want to sell the women's game as well as the men's game.
That would be great. Well, Pete, I really appreciate you talking to us and taking time out of your day. I mean, go enjoy the weather, go enjoy your paradise, because my God, that's so nice to look at.
Yeah, I do feel a little bad. I feel a little bad for all my friends back home as well. And I really keep my fingers crossed for you guys in New York, and hope everything improves there, and hope everything improves around the world. I feel very, very privileged to be here. We're still being very careful here. We're still getting tests all the time here, but yeah, very, very lucky to be part of UTS, and especially in, as I say, paradise at this time of year. It's not too bad. But thanks for chatting.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Take care now.
Cheers. Take care.